Thank you, Franche, and thank you, Con, for inviting me to this festival of theology. And I have also to pay tribute to the audience to stay after lunch such a long time dealing with theology. So it's congratulations. Since many years there has been an intensive discussion concerning the status of theology in secular universities. The main criteria for a discipline to be taught at universities, I think we all agree, is its scientific character. Can there be a scientific theology? According to a widespread opinion, this is impossible because theologians are committed personally to the contents of the religious beliefs they're supposed to study in a scientific way. According to this view, a minimal condition for scientific research is neutrality towards this object of research. Neutrality is connected methodologically to the scientific approach of science of religion. According to Lievenböwe, science of religion has to presuppose, as he calls it, a methodological atheism. Of course, theology does not fulfill this methodological requirement. Keith Ward puts this methodological difference between science of religion on the one hand and theology on the other side in the following way. I quote, "Theology differs from religious studies largely in this, that religious studies brackets out or sets aside questions of the truth and rationality of religious beliefs. Theology takes those questions as its central concern. In its study of revealed texts, of the development of doctrines, the writings of great thinkers, and the history of institutions, it always concentrates on what can reasonably be affirmed as true." So when it comes to the question whether theology should stay in public universities, the commitment of the truth of specific religious beliefs seem to be an argument for those who want to get rid of theology. Most of them would probably argue in the following way: how can we learn more about religion when we presuppose the truth of specific religious beliefs? The commitment to the truth of one belief system makes us blind for the variety of contradicting religious beliefs. According to this view, theologians are biased because they assume in their research the truth of specific beliefs. And they are blind for often contradicting assumptions of different religious belief systems. This opinion is so widespread in the academic world that sometimes it seems to be even trivially true. In the following, I would like to argue against this commonplace and try to develop a positive perspective for scientific theology. First, I would invite you to have a look on the sciences. From the point of view of philosophy of science, the fact that researchers presuppose the truth of specific propositions is in itself no problem. On the contrary, most natural scientists presuppose not only the truth of certain principles as the basis of their scientific research, they also believe in the truth of the theories through which they explain the phenomena which lie in the focus of their research. According to Thomas Kuhn, the scientific practice demonstrates that the quasi-dogmatic belief in the truths of scientific theories is epistemologically productive. The commitment to the truth of a specific scientific theory has not only the effect that anomalies which disturb the scientific work can be eliminated or integrated sooner or later into the existing theory, it also creates a high sensibility for the empirical evidence contradicting the expectations derived from the theory. If no adequate explanation can be found within the existing theory, this can be the beginning of a scientific revolution, the process in which the existing theory is replaced through a more comprehensive one. This personal commitment to the truth of specific theories or scientific beliefs is essential for the scientific work and progress, and it has its specific phenomenal character. If we believe that the proposition Q is true, we cannot accept at the same time that the contradicting proposition P can also be true. We are convinced that Q is true and P is false. In his article on the origins of geometry, Edmund Husserl explicates this subjective phenomenal aspect of maintaining the truth of propositions or beliefs. According to Husserl, the subjective basis for asserting true propositions or beliefs lies exclusively in a specific epistemic attitude of the scientist. I quote, "This process of projecting and successfully realizing occurs, after all, purely within the subject of the inventor. And thus, the meaning, as present originality with its own whole content, lies exclusively, so to speak, within his mental space." So it is this active projecting and realizing which has to be distinguished from a purely passive understanding of the meaning of the concepts or propositions involved. A pure analysis and understanding of the meaning of theories or other propositional structures alone cannot, and this is Husserl's view, cannot generate mathematical or scientific knowledge. With Husserl, it can be stated that only the active commitment to the truth of specific beliefs or propositions can generate this kind of knowledge which is typical for the whole scientific enterprise. So now, what can we say about theology, departing from this scientific view on the truth of propositions? It is clear that theology is different and theological propositions are much more basic, perhaps. But one thing is clear, academic theology fulfills this scientific requirement. Most theological disciplines depart from an explicit commitment to specific religious beliefs. In this respect, the commitment to the truth of specific beliefs and propositions turns into an advantage of theology compared to science of religion. When theologians assume the truth of specific religious beliefs, they do not only make explicit their premises in scientific research, they make these beliefs also vulnerable for possible objections. I would like to illustrate this difference between academic theology and science of religion through the following example. The truth of the belief that God exists implies for most theologians the further belief that God is the fundament and origin of all reality. Let us take, therefore, as our example, the religious belief that God is the creator of the world. Following their methodology of religious neutrality, scientists of religion would refer to the truth of religious beliefs in the following way. They would say, the members of the religious group X believe that the proposition God is the creator of the world is true. Theologians would refer to this belief differently. They would say, we believe that the proposition God is the creator of the world is true. It is clear that the truth makers of the true propositions are completely different. In the first proposition, the truth maker is the fact that the members of the group X believe that the proposition God is the creator of the world is true. The fact which makes the proposition true is, for science of religion, the mental fact that the members of the group X believe in the truth of the proposition. For theologians, the truth maker is a different one. It is the non-mental fact that God is the creator of the world. So, which additional information do we get when we presuppose the truth of specific religious beliefs? Those who opt for a replacement of theology through science of religion might answer that by presupposing the truth of religious beliefs, we get no additional information about those beliefs. Science of religion, according to this view, can fully grasp the propositional content of the religious belief that God is the creator of the world. According to them, the reference to the truth maker, God's creating of the world, does not give us additional information about the content of the belief. Is this really the case? Let us look more carefully to our example. What are the consequences of my assuming the truth of the belief that God created the world? When I presuppose the truth of this belief, I make its content vulnerable to a possible confirmation or refutation. I or others can provide evidence for or against the truth of my belief. These confirming or defeating evidences consist in other beliefs, experiences, or perceptions. Therefore, assuming the truth of religious beliefs, P, connect this belief to other beliefs, experiences, and perceptions. By assuming that truth, we integrate religious beliefs into a belief system consisting of scientific knowledge, common sense intuitions, and present and past experiences or perceptions. We believe not only in the truth of the proposition God is the creator of the world, we are also convinced that physical theories about the origin of the universe are true. Moreover, we believe in the empirical adequacy of evolutionary explanations of the biological species, and each of us has her specific personal experiences and perceptions of reality. At this point, theologians, but also normal believers, have to discuss the question whether the belief in the existence of God is compatible with scientific explanations which also make statements on the nature and origin of reality. So, exploring this tension between these religious beliefs and our common sense intuitions can lead to a refutation of some religious beliefs. In fact, there are some examples in the history of dogmatic development that specific religious beliefs have been modified or made more explicit due to a dialogue between theology and natural sciences and common sense intuitions. So assuming the truth of religious beliefs and relating it to other beliefs or experiences enables theologians to explore hidden aspects or implications of these beliefs. The direct confrontation of religious belief with other parts of our belief system sometimes requires a modification, a further specification, or even a refutation of this religious belief. So we can, come to a first conclusion that claiming the truth of religious beliefs and confronting them with other beliefs and experiences have direct implications for the quality and rational standards of a religion. For example, I come to the same example, specific understandings of the proposition God is the creator of the world are incompatible with scientific knowledge on the origin of the universe or the evolution of the species. We cannot integrate a literal understanding of the biblical version of God's creation of the world, according to Genesis 1, into the belief system of contemporary science. Scientific evidence requires a wider understanding of the proposition God is the creator of the world. Academic theology is best qualified to undertake such a specification or a modification of religious beliefs, and it has done it since more than 1,000 years. Thomas von Aquinas' attempt to reconcile the belief in creation with the Aristotelian conception of an eternal cosmos, the theological abandonment of geocentrism, and the late rehabilitation of Galilei, the new theological conceptions of evolutionary creations are only a few examples for revisions and specifications of religious belief, of the religious belief that God is the creator of the world. Theological research based upon the truth of basic religious beliefs is therefore an instrument to distinguish adequate from inadequate conceptions of their content. For example, it can explain why creationist conceptions of the belief that God is the creator of the world are inappropriate and irrational. Only academic theology is able to account for a critical evaluation of the quality and rational coherence of theistic beliefs. So before I conclude, I would like to anticipate some objections, but you will bring much more afterwards, I'm sure. 3 objections you could make. So, as a matter of fact, many contemporary theologians try to avoid the truth question in theology. According to them, but I accept all theologians here in the room and on the campus, according to them, religious beliefs should not be considered as propositions which can be true or false. Instead of this, they argue for a hermeneutic approach to religious beliefs and religious traditions. In this essay, in this argument, I do not argue against this approach in theology, but I would stick to the point that an exclusive hermeneutical understanding of theology without tackling the truth question would not only amount to a self-immunization of religious beliefs or religious traditions, it would also destroy the main advantage of theology as an academic discipline. Other theologians, we have some of them in Innsbruck, prefer a more pragmatic or pastoral, and this morning I heard a political understanding of theology. According to them, it makes no sense to discuss the truth of religious beliefs. It is more important to look at their practical or pastoral implications. The consequences of this purely pragmatic approach, understood in this way, also leads to a self-abolishment of theology. If religious beliefs are only relevant for specific practical needs, and if the truth question is reduced to a question of pragmatism, science of religion is in a much better position to perform the analysis of the practical use of religion than theology. Second objection. The attempt to ban theology from secular universities is not an exclusive move of secular or agnostic movements within society, politics, or university. Sectarians or fundamentalists argue in a similar direction, as we have heard from Dirk. Especially for the reasons I mentioned above, these more fundamentalist groups try to bring theology out of secular universities to more secure and safe places, like divinity schools, Catholic high schools, or purely Catholic institutions. It's nothing against Frankfurt. These groups believe that only through this isolation the pure doctrine can be preserved against the perils of academic scientific objections. Also here we would have a self-immunization of a religious belief system which avoids a direct confrontation with scientific or other well-accepted beliefs of our society. And it is clear that for such an approach in theology, there is no place in public universities. A third objection. There is a new branch of religious studies which reflects on the methods of traditional science of religion and interprets it as a product of Western theological and philosophical thinking. This branch argues for the introduction of theological perspective and norms into religious studies. So it's a tendency in religious science or in religious studies that we should introduce theology into science of religion. We should do theology within religious studies. And I would say, okay, this is possible, but then it is my suspicion that in this case, theology absorbs religious studies. So also this would be more or less theology done within religious studies. So I come to a conclusion. Academic theology makes religious beliefs vulnerable by assuming their truth and connecting it to the truth of other propositions in our belief system. In this way, academic theology contributes to an increase in the quality of religious belief system in different aspects. First, academic theology makes sure that religious belief systems meet certain minimal standards of rationality and intrinsic coherence. Second, academic theology is the best remedy against self-immunization of religious believers. Often, religious believers tend to stick to their beliefs, irrespective of scientific and common sense intuitions which are against it. As we all know, this attitude can lead to bigotry and, in the worst case, to religious fundamentalism, and in the last consequence, it can also lead to a destabilization of the whole society. In this way, academic theology provides an essential contribution to the stability of a society with individuals sharing specific religious beliefs and sharing a specific worldview. So this was a plaidoyer for theology in public universities, but I'm not a theologian, I'm a philosopher, so I'm looking at this a little bit from the outside. I want to thank you for your extraordinary patience, and I'm looking forward for the discussions. Thank you very much.